I honestly can't believe that it's come to this. But yesterday, the day before yesterday, we ran the video on that Top Fuel Dragster. And we says, yeah, not only are we going to get it running, but we're going to put it on the ground and we're going to send this thing. So I put out that video figuring it would get a few views. It's going to get 15, 20,000 views. And that the comments were going to be, oh, it's a cool old car. Oh yeah, neat. No, it's got like 50,000 views, which is good. That's a decent video for us. But man, the comments. I cannot believe how excited you guys were about this concept of getting an old Top Fuel car, refurbishing it, and sending it. The comments were overwhelmingly good, overwhelmingly enthusiastic. And it's a double-edged sword to me because as a YouTuber, yes, that's great. You guys want to see this stuff. But as somebody who recovered from the sickness many years ago, this is quite literally the same as taking a degenerate gambler and giving them the keys to the casino, or an alcoholic and saying, here, there's a bar, go run it. It's literally exactly the same thing. You guys have no idea. The sickness, I had the nitro sickness bad, really bad. And oh man, I covered a lot of ground, did a lot of things. And when it was over, I put it behind me. I threw away all my notes. I threw away my black book that had every contact in it, all gone. I stopped answering phones, and I was like, done. I'm done. It's in my past, and I am never going back there. I am never going back to that place because it's a sick place. Okay, because nitro operates in its own universe. Yes, there are cars out there that are far more sophisticated. And there's cars out there that are far faster, or far more technically intricate. No question about it. But there's a nature to nitro that puts it in its own category. Nothing else in the world is like it. And it's an all-encompassing thing. It's different than other types of racing. It's different than anything else. It's different than anything else. And like I said, I spent a lot of time there. So I was part of me was hoping, we put the video up, part of me was hoping it was like, yeah, nobody has any interest, nobody cares. And I would have shaken Jeff's hand and say, it's a great display piece. But no, like I said, the comments, you guys are really stoked about it. And Jeff, he's reading the comments too. And he's like, this is great. These people really love this stuff. Let's do this thing. Let's go all in. Jeff, the owner of the car, wants us to go all in. All right, so, which means that for good or for bad, for better or worse, I'm diving back into the sickness. A couple of caveats here, right? The first is that I'm not always in complete control of the circumstances that go on around a project car. Now, there's no question Jeff has the resources and the mindset to make this happen, but we may be dealing with obsolete parts and all sorts of things that'll get in the way of, let's say, a smooth completion of this project. So keep that in mind. Also, for the last several months, I've had, let's say, a family health situation that has kept me very close to the house, meaning that I haven't been able to go anywhere. I haven't been able to go to a drag strip. I haven't been able to do anything except really run from here, the shop to the house, back and forth. And this is for the last several months, which is, you guys wondering why all of our cars are just sitting and nothing's getting done as far as I'm going out. This is why. Now that situation has reversed itself. And everything is looking really good right now. So I'm very enthusiastic, and I'm kind of back to, I'm free. I can run around, I can do whatever I've got to do. So we're getting back into the swing of things. But that situation is always hanging over my head at this point. So there might be a point during this endeavor that I may have to pause or take very limited exposure with it. Out of my control. There's nothing I can do about that. But I'm sure you guys understand. And I just want to say this ahead of time because this is going to be a very long, very involved journey. Having a car is actually, it's actually a very small part of the whole picture when it comes to running anything on nitro. Because there's the car, yes, but there's the tools, there's the systems. And when I say systems, I mean everything needed to service the car and the people. The people, it takes several people to do this. I mean, back in the day, I used to be able to service a fuel car between rounds with just 2 people. But then again, I'm not 35 anymore, and you know, it's going to take several people with a real commitment to this car, to this project, to make it happen, to see it through. So right now, like I said, the owner of the car, he's all in. And his buddy is in too. And Dr. Art says he's in. So we've got 4 people on this car now. That's enough. If everybody is really serious about it, it's enough to get it done. So, like I said, it's going to be a process to get from where we are right now to where the car is actually on the ground and ready to run. So, and when I say process, the car has got to be gone through, as we explained in the video. But also we've got to come up with our tools, our systems. Everybody's got to be drilled on the bits of the car that they're going to be concerned with. I'm going to take care of the overall tuning of the car, and I'm going to dive. So I'll be the guy that does drops the oil pan and looks at bearings and stuff like that. And then we got to figure out who's going to fit in other roles of the car, you know, in the car. So somebody's got to be a clutch guy, somebody's got to be a top end guy, somebody's got to be just general help to, you know, do this, do that, do the other thing. So all of that's going to have to evolve between now and the time we actually put this thing on the ground and try to, you know, make noise with it. We're going to make noise with it, but actually try to send it. So this is going to take some time. Currently, the last couple of days, I've been making phone calls and stuff. I'm having PTSD flashbacks, guys. You don't know, you don't understand. But over the last couple of days, I've been making phone calls and messaging people. Unfortunately, a lot of people who I knew back in the day are gone. They're no longer with us. I was always a baby of the bunch. I was always 15, 20 years younger than the guys that were around me. So I'm in my 60s now, and most of them are dead. But there are a few guys who I'm talking to, and we've got some parts on the way. We've got some blanks to fill in yet, and I have to finish things here before we bring the car over. So that 383's got to go together, and we've got to get it in the Belvedere. That'll happen over the next couple of weeks. And in the meantime, things are being rounded up. So I'm going to talk about, we'll get to the car, you know, parts of the car itself in a minute, but first let's talk about things we need around the car, okay? So the car is going to need 4 stations, tool stations, okay? And now, so let me explain this to you. It's a 1968 car, but we're going to run it as it was in its final configuration, 1971, 1972, okay? So that's how we're going to set this car up, and that's how we're going to run it. A car set up to run in 1968 is a lot different than, or a lot less involved than a car set to run in 1972. So you say, well, why don't you just set it to run the way it was in 1968 when we just like, you know, kind of like smoke the tires and all? Well, it's because drag strips have changed. And we don't want to take a car and limit it to only running on no prep surfaces. Even like just mom and pop bracket race drag strips prep their surfaces these days. In the early days of Top Fuel, like when this car was first built, there was no track prep. There was like nothing. And so, you know, just smoking the tires and all of that, making passes that way, that was a no-brainer. That's how they all ran. But by the time 1971, 1972 came around, now you're dealing with track prep similar to what we have today, track surfaces like what we have today, and routines like what we have today, as far as servicing the cars and whatnot go. So 1972 is a period of time that we're going to focus in on. We're going to bring all of the parts to that period, and we have to service the car and treat it as if it's 1972. So one of the first things we need to establish before we even put a wrench to the car is we need our tool stations. So we need one that's going to be our blower or top end tool tray. So that's going to have everything in there for the spark plugs, warm-up plugs, run plugs. It's going to have everything in there to adjust the fuel injection, to set the valves, to do all of the things that you're going to do on the top end of the engine. So I have all of the wrenches for fuel line fittings, and I'll have jets in it, and I have all sorts of things that you're going to use on the top end of the motor. We also, on the underneath of it, we need a bottom end station. So the bottom end station is going to be basically probably a big cookie tray, okay? And with that, you're going to have everything you need to service the bottom end of the engine. To, you know, get the pan down, check the bearings, check the mains, all of that. And everything you need, all of the tools that are already under the car, all of the bits are already under the car to service down there. That's two. So then we also need a clutch tool set. So now the clutch set is going to be put in the seat of the car, and whoever's working the clutch is going to work out of the seat of the car, and there's going to be everything you need in there to pull the coupler cover off, the coupler out, the reverser out, the clutch can out or off, and then everything to service the clutch. So all of those tools are going to be, and bits and pieces are going to be separate and in the seat of the car. And then we need a fourth one, which is the main general tool tray, and that's going to sit between the motor and the fuel tank. And that's where all of the parts you need for all the tools you need and all of the bits you need to service the rest of the car. So in there you'll have all of the stuff to take the heads off, you'll have all of the stuff in there to knock pistons in and out of it, just anything you need to service the rest of the car. So it's just a general tool tray. So I've got to get those together, organize all of that, and figure out what tools are going to go where. And then whoever is going to take a role in the car, like for instance, whoever's going to do the clutch, he's going to have to drill on that and know all of the, because you got to be able to pull a can. You got to do all of this stuff while you're leaving. It's hot enough to leave your fingers on your skin on the can. So whoever's working any section of the car has got to have their tray set up the way they want it, and they're going to have to know how to pull each bit apart and put it back together again, blindfolded. You drill on this over and over and over again. You wear the threads off the bolts so that when you're at the track, you've only got a limited time between runs. You've got to be able to do anything and everything from completely 8 pistons and rods and a whole clutch, whatever needs to be done. It's all going to be done in the space of an hour and a half. So that's one of the main missions right now. A couple of systems are obsolete. So all of the pumps that I used to know and the pumps that Jeff currently has, he's got a Hillborn 175-4 and he's got an Enderle 1100, and both of those pumps are obsolete. They don't make them anymore. Mike Chiliando over at Alky Digger here in Nashville is going to float each of those pumps, and if they're within 10% of what they're supposed to be, we'll be able to run them. There are other bits and pieces that we're looking for, and we'll cover those as we go forward. All right, so one of the main changes that we're going to make, one of the most obvious changes that we're going to make between, from the way the car is sitting right now to where we're going to run it, is we're going to substitute. It currently has a Hillborn 4-port on it. And the Hillborn 4-port was really it was a state-of-the-art, very viable fuel injector in the days before burnouts and backing up and all the other stuff. They're not very precise. They can be a little sloppy. I've never personally worked with one either, because that was all gone way before I came in. So we're going to substitute the Hillborn 4-port that's on there now for this Enderle Bug Catcher. So this is most of the Bug Catcher right here. What we're missing is the K valve, which is the fuel distribution and metering block. But we've got our hat lines. The 4-port only has 4 nozzles up here to get enough volume through. Well, actually, it's hard to get enough volume through because the lines will only flow so much. So to get enough volume through with enough spray with the 4-port is difficult. You use smaller nozzles with a little bit higher pressure on the 8 lines on the Bug Catcher. You get a better misting of the fuel. Nitromethane has approximately the same specific gravity as water. It looks like water. It pours like water. It doesn't look or act like any fuel that you're familiar with. It might as well be water. And when I used to flow these systems at my house, back when I was doing this stuff, I used to use water. I used to use the garden hose, and I plumbed it in so that I'd be able to run the. All right. So at any rate, these Enderles are a better suited for what we're going to do. So this is what's going to actually go on the car. Some of you guys are history bugs. Let's do a little bit of history first. Okay, so the bug catcher was originally introduced in either 1964 or 1965, and it was a shower head style injector. So it looked just like this, okay, but instead of having the nozzles down here, it had two bungs on the side right there, and they came in two different ways, two different styles. One of them had two nozzles, and that was for low volume fuels like gasoline and alcohol. So just two nozzles stuck right in there that would spray down into the top of the blower. And then they had a spray bar, which looped around the inside of it here, and that was for higher volume fuels like nitro. Okay, volume. It takes 2.2 times the amount of alcohol, so equivalent, 2.2 times alcohol to gasoline, and then you double that again for nitro, to give you an idea of how much volume of fuel you've actually got to put into a fuel motor. So originally these were set up as shower heads, not very successful. They didn't really catch on. Few people used them, but they were much better systems. Then they made this 8 nozzle setup. So you've got 8 separate nozzles in the bottom, and then you've got the K valve, which is more adjustable, gives you more flexibility than the Hillborn one did. So that's what we're going to use with this. Okay, more history for the bug catcher. This is what's called a 3-rib bug catcher. So they were produced like this from the beginning, 1965 or so, until around 1978, 1979. And then they took these ribs out and just made it a smooth top. So this would be a period correct bug catcher for that era. The bug catcher and its variants, the bird catcher, which was bigger, just bigger opening, bigger everything, and then the buzzard catcher. Right? There were all different variations of this. Most of them had these 3 round butterflies. Some of them had square butterflies, but all different variations of this. But this was the predominant fuel injector in nitro from around 1970, 1971, right up until when I quit. We were using a buzzard catcher on our car in 1999, which was like the last year for it, and along with the K valves. We were running 2 pumps with 2 K valves, so we had a K valve on either side, and one pump just fed the down nozzles, which this car will not have, and then the other side, which is what we're going to use on this car, has the hat nozzles and the port nozzles. So this only have the 1 K valve, but this was, like I said, the predominant fuel injector of that era. Now we're missing the barrel valve on this. We'll have a barrel valve next time, and when I have the barrel valve, this will be like the next installment of this. I'll run you guys through the fuel circuitry and show you how it all goes together, what flows where, when, and so on and so forth. But for right now, this is all we've got. The butterflies, you're setting, you set your idle speed with this. So here's how I set the idle speed, okay? On nitro, you're looking for an idle of approximately 2,000 RPM. So on gasoline, that same air opening, throttle opening, throttle opening, okay? The same throttle opening will give you 2,000 RPM on nitro, will give you about 3,000 RPM on gasoline. So I know you guys have seen me use these squirt bottles, and these squirt bottles go back to the nitro days. So this is actually how you set the idle on these things. You pretend that the barrel valve isn't there at all for this part of it. You just want to achieve an air gap that's approximately 3,000 RPM on the squirt bottle. So you fire the motor and you feed it fuel while you open and close the butterflies. You set the butterfly adjustment until you get that approximate 3,000 RPM idle off of the squirt bottle. It takes a little practice. You know how much the orifice makes a difference. You can have identical bottles with different caps and different orifices, and they'll spray differently. So all of that has to stay consistent. This is what nitro's about. This is nitro, okay? So your squirt bottle has to be consistent. Some people use like mustard bottles. They cut the top off of all different things. It's up to the individual who's doing it to pick the system that works for him. And for me, it was always these squirt bottles. So you set the butterfly, the opening, the air gap, until you got a 3,000 RPM idle off of the squirt bottle, because then you know when you switch over to nitro, it's going to drop down to around 2,000 RPM. And you need the idle that high to keep everything moving, to keep everything, to keep it right, to keep it happy. Now also your clutch settings have everything to do with this because it's a centrifugal clutch. So the idle speed has to be consistent so that you can get consistent clutch settings. The car leaves properly every time. So that's how you set the idle speed on this. Typically what we used to do back in the day is after you get the butterfly set and you lock that down, that's never going to change. You can change your fuel mixture by there's a turnbuckle here that goes to the K valve. What we would typically do is drill holes in other places in the hat and keep them covered with duct tape. Because atmospheric conditions change, and let's say you want to add a little air to the mix. Sorry about that, guys. The camera overheated while I was in the middle of a sentence. It's 100 degrees in here right now. Where was it? Okay, so as I was saying, what we would do back in the old days is, I guess I am an old timer. What we would do is drill holes in the hat, usually at the back part over here, and then cover them with duct tape. So if we wanted to add or take away air, it was just a quick, easy way to do it without messing with the adjustments. Because once you've set this, your barrel valve is linked to it, so you can't just make a quick idle speed adjustment based on butterfly position without also changing the fuel. But we will get to that. Next time around, we're going to talk about the K valve and all of the circuitry involved in that. All right. So, all right, that brings us to, I should take notes, but I don't. I do all this stuff off the top of my head because I need more punishment like I need more nitro, but let's do this thing. So you guys made it obvious that you're interested in the tech surrounding these cars. You asked for it, you're going to get it. Through this series, for however long it lasts, however far it goes, every bit of it is going to be an info dump. You're going to learn more about fuel cars. Listen, these cars don't come with instruction manuals. They don't come with, there's no forums on the internet where you can learn all of these things. This is all, each one of these cars is unique, like its own fingerprint. Everybody who sets one up, tunes one, has their own ways. Everybody who steps on the throttle has their own ways, and each car is very, very individual. So there's a ton of baby steps. You take baby steps. The biggest mistake you make with nitro is rushing into anything, okay? You take baby steps, trial and error, and just you move forward in slow steps until eventually it all comes together, and then you got a car you can send repeatedly. So we're going to take every step of the way. I'm going to bring you guys along for the ride. If you're very interested in this particular topic, God help you if you are. If you're very interested in this particular topic, I did a 2-part series in Superstock and Drag Illustrated magazine, although it may have changed to Drag Racing Monthly magazine by that point because there was a name change. It might have still been Superstock and Drag Illustrated at the time. This is back in 1996 or 1997. I did a 2-part series in that magazine called Cheap Thrills. And in that magazine, I covered all of the things that we're going to talk about here in this series, but only probably not as in depth because it was magazine and it had limited space. Even with 2 parts, it still had limited space, and I had to cover a lot of ground with it. But if you are interested in this topic, it would pay for you to go find it. I do not have a copy of it. I don't know where you can get a copy of it, but they're out there and you can hunt it down if you're that interested. Over the years, I've had numerous Top Fuel, Nostalgia Top Fuel, Nostalgia Funny Car people approach me like in the pits and say, thank you, that it was your articles in Superstock that gave me the foundation and knowledge and the confidence to go ahead and do this. So they were good pieces. They were very comprehensive, and they were written at a time that I was actually involved in it. So I'm very rusty. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff I've forgotten, and there's a lot of stuff that I think I've just blocked out because I'm a regular person now. I don't have the sickness anymore. I can't explain it. You guys who've lived through this in the comments, you can feel free to throw your experiences in there. But this is going to be comprehensive. This is going to be information that you're not going to find anywhere else. Like you comb the whole internet, you're not going to find this stuff. It's probably a good thing. It's probably a good thing. Most of the people who had this knowledge, who worked with these cars, they're gone now. Like they're way dead. So there's really only a handful of people out there that really know the old ways. There's a fair number of people out there that know the current ways, but that's not what we're dealing with here. This is throwback, how this stuff used to work. And I could add in here too, when I did that Cheap Thrills series, the premise of it was, for approximately the same amount of money that it costs you to run a top-notch fast bracket car, you could actually run a low-dollar, low budget nitro car. And back then, it actually was possible. We're talking about 30 years ago now. But, I mean, a lot's changed since then. But the basic premise is the same. There's a lot of people out there with very, very elaborate, very expensive, like bracket type of cars that could actually burn nitro, in a Slingshot dragster or an altered or an old funny car, or even a door slammer, for about the same amount of money. It's never going to be cheap. It's certainly never going to be easy, but it's possible if you really want it. If you end up with the sickness, God help you if you end up with the sickness. But here we are. The universe has put it all together. They dropped the car on my lap. It dropped a willing owner with the resources to make it happen, and you guys who want to see this. So, let's do it. So this is first installment of Project Top Fuel or Mission Top Fuel. I don't know, what should we even call this thing, right? But let's send it. I honestly cannot believe I'm doing this. I swore it would never happen again. I swore it would never happen again. I'll see you tomorrow.